Welcome to Enhancing the Human Experience. I'm Mark Phillips, and this is episode 84. Well, how's your fall going? Are you focusing on health, wealth, and success, on vitality, on vigor and enthusiasm? Or do sometimes you get fixated and focused on those undesirable things, the things and experiences you don't want? It happens to all of us, right? This is like the nature of being human. We're always bombarded with different type of distractions and things that want our attention, and of course the media doesn't help the situation at all. And knowing about something horrific happening in another country doesn't necessarily benefit anyone, because it just amplify that negative vibration. And that's why in this episode of the podcast, I'm going to share with you what I call one tool to rule them all. I was toying with the notion of also adding a subtitle on battling the goldfish syndrome, because in a very real sense, we human beings are a lot like goldfish. It's easy to become distracted if we don't have tools in our bag of tricks that can help us to focus on the experiences we want to bring about in life. As we all know, where energy will always flow where focus goes, and what you focus on will expand. And so as I share this tool with you, which I should add is largely responsible, the impetus from this tool I got from Abraham Hicks, and I've talked about them before, and Esther Hicks' work and channeling Abraham, the awesome knowledge and tools and applicable items we can actually use in order to enhance our lives. And this is a tool that is largely based on their work, but also I'm going to talk about some of the other places, other people that have talked about this tool. This is really nothing new. This idea that what you focus on, you're going to attract, and you're going to bring that into your experience. This is one of the reasons why at the top of the podcast, I said, hey, where are you focusing? Are you focusing on being healthy in this time, this transitional time of the season, when some people are getting the flu, are getting the cold? What are you fixated on that, or are you fixated on health and vitality? Now, we're all practicing, we're all learning. Sometimes we're going to fall off the track, or get off track there. But that's just the ultimate goal, is to stay predominantly focused on the experiences we want to have, the person we want to be, the things we want to do, and the experiences we want to have in life. And so I'm going to share with you this very simple tool, which I've kind of touched on this idea before and this notion before, but I'm going to go over it really quickly with you here, and then share some insights and considerations about the tool. And like I said, I picked this up from Abraham Hicks, and largely from them, but it's talked about in other people talk about that in their work as well. But let's just dive in here and see what we got here. So basically, you and I both know that when you focus on something, you start seeing it in your experience. The easiest way to do this is to maybe think about someone that you haven't seen in a while, or think about something, an object that you haven't seen, or start to, the common one is when you go to buy a car and you find a type of car that you want, right? You start seeing that in your experience. Or if you think about someone, you start to maybe run into them randomly. There is no randomness in the universe. Everything has this interconnectedness. This all intelligent energy is always communicating with all other intelligent energy, and you're part of that intelligent energy. I'm part of the intelligent energy. And so when we put our intention out there, every thought is an intention, right? Even if it's just thinking about a person, you may run into that person seemingly randomly, or drive past them, or whatever else. But that in and of itself is evidence that there's no randomness. Now, the other thing I want to share about that is a lot of people say that the more you believe that it really will happen, that you will run into that person, or that you can have that experience, the faster it's going to come to you. And this is the challenge that we all have, in the sense that when you are in strong belief about something happening, it's going to happen faster. If you're really going outside of yourself, your current level of experience, and you want to manifest something really, really huge, the timeline potentially is longer, because there's a bigger barrier of belief to get through. And I just want to have you think about that for a minute and kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We can speed up that timeline or get there faster if we kind of talk ourselves into it that, hey, it's no big deal. And I've talked about this in past podcasts. My favorite way to look at this is you're not doing the creating. This takes you off the hook, because if you come to the table here, I mean table as in the human experience, and say, okay, I want this and this and this and this on all these experiences, and then you think you have to create them, that can be a very daunting task. And you can slug it out, you can use willpower and motivation, and it can be very, very energetically draining and exhausting, and really, really difficult in some situations. But if you surrender to that power within yourself and just give the intention to the God force that flows through you and then get out of the way, it comes very easily. This is the whole notion of willpower versus inspiration, or willpower versus divine like intelligence or divine force or God force. Your limited human willpower, my limited human willpower, only will get us so far. It's like slogging uphill, not turning on the engine, the creative engine within us, which is our imagination and our ability to consciously choose what we want to have in life. And it's all about the focus, right? So if you're just doing it through willpower, sometimes can get very exhausting. This is when people get burnout. This is when people get sick and have all sorts of other things happen because they're not using that creative engine within themselves. And you know what? I have been there. And I think this is one of our primary practices as human beings, is to surrender, continually surrender our will to the will of what is going to flow through us. Now, having said that, I also believe that we get to decide what's going to flow through us. We set that conscious intention, and then the surrender is getting out of the way and allowing ourselves to be inspired to the easiest path to get that intention, to get the thing we want, to become the person, to do the thing, or to have the experience. We still are conscious creators, and I do believe that we have the ability to create, and it's not something where there's already a predetermined or a predestined course of events. I don't believe that, because I think we are here as expressions of consciousness, the one universal consciousness, and we're deciphering and choosing what we want, right? Based on our conscious intent, right? We're choosing and always choosing. And that's why this focusing tool, which I'm calling one tool to rule them all, is really, really great for doing that. The whole idea behind it is super simple. And I love simple tools, as you probably have realized at this point. But basically, it's simply writing down the words that represent the experiences you want to have. They could be joy, it could be bliss, prosperity, abundance, simplicity, organization, all of those things that you want to have. You're going to have different words on your list than someone else is going to have. And also don't forget the fun, to have a fun experience and an enjoyable experience. Because at the end of the day, we've talked about this before, whatever you want in life, it's not the thing that you want. It's not why you want that thing. You want the experience of having that thing that's going to give you, right? The relationship. You want the experience of being loved and being in a supportive relationship and having like a partner in crime, using crime in a positive sense, of course, to go about and do your work in life. A lot of people are more lifted up and more, like, I guess I should say, successful when they have a support system, whether that's your family, your friends, a lover, anything like that's going to help you. And so whatever, you need to be lifted up as, then you want to have that experience of support. And the thing of it is, when you focus on having that experience, then what are you? You're in alignment with that experience, aren't you? And we know that what we focus on expands. And so writing down your list of terms, and they are just one word that represents an experience you want to have. And it could be any experience that you will have when you become a certain person, when you do a certain thing, or when you have a certain thing, whether it's a material object, whether it's a travel, anything like that, an adventure in life. It's the experience that you really going after. We're experiential beings, right? And all the things we have in life always translate back to being an experience. And so this focusing tool is just a simple list of terms. And here's the thing. We've got to do it multiple times a day. Definitely in the morning, we get up, we tune in to the experience and the feeling that we want to have before we start our day. Because what does that do? That allows us to carry that vibration with us throughout the day. I look at it like taking vitamins. We take our vitamins to keep our body in tune. If we take these thoughts to keep our mind and our vibration in tune, we're going to have a lot better experiences in life. We're going to stay focused on what we want. And when something comes up, whether you see it in the news or a friend talks about an experience that is not in alignment with what you want, you won't resonate with it, and it'll seem very, very different from where you're at. And maybe you've had this happen in your own experience because, let's face it, not everyone is focusing on the same things. This goes back to the goldfish syndrome. We're all in that syndrome to a degree. We all have the shiny object over here, or the news story over here, or the quote unquote tragedy that happened to a person over here. And those can distract us. And remember, when we focus on that, that only is going to amplify that situation. And we don't want to amplify experiences that aren't in alignment with, health, wealth, and success, quite frankly. I mean, you can put it whatever words you want in there. But again, and why would you even talk about that experience? Why would you even give it any attention at all if you don't want to amplify it? Now, this is the huge challenge. You know what? I am not perfect at this. I'm on this path, just like we all are. And it's not just the goal of not giving your attention, not talking about, not thinking about things and experiences that aren't beneficial to the human life, right? So you have your own ideas about what that is, but when you start to not focus on those and focus on the things and experiences you want, you will distance yourself from those quote unquote bad experiences or undesirable experiences. Let's put them that way. Undesirable experiences versus desirable experiences. So like I said, maybe 3 times a day. How often do you take a vitamin? Once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day? But over time, it's that compound effect and that momentum that will occur of you focusing on these experiences that you want to have. And again, you can write them down in a journal. You can keep them in a 3x5 card in your pocket, which I really, really love because you can pull that card out all the time and look at it. And what that does is it does a couple things. One, it's going to prompt ideas that come into your mind that can help you have more of that. Remember, what we focus on expands. If you're focusing on prosperity and abundance, you're going to be thinking thoughts that help you have more of that. If you're focusing on love and connection and friendship and relationship, you're going to have thoughts that cause you to have more of that. And the second thing is, there are going to be forces put to work that you aren't even conscious of, that you and I aren't conscious of at all. That's the real benefit of this. Remember, we're not alone here doing our work. We're not cut off from source. We're extensions of source. And so when we focus on something, we get that power behind us. So it's not just what you focus on expands. It's what you focus on, the source of all creation, divine intelligence, source, God force within you. It expands it for you. And this is where we get the serendipitous meeting. We happen to be in a certain spot at the right time in the right place and meet a certain person. Those kind of things are when life really gets fun, really, really gets fun. But it only happens when we set that conscious intent and trust and have faith in that force inside of us to do the majority of the work. And we just set the conscious intent. Lots of manifestation gurus talk about this notion that all you have to do is decide. My favorite quote, of course, is what Emerson said, that once you decide, the whole universe conspires to make it happen. But all of them have said something like that we're not really doing it. Like I said, you're not doing any of it. But that letting go can be challenging for human beings because we've got this deeply ingrained pattern of behavior that is from, centuries deep, that tells us that we've got to take action. We're making it happen. We're doing the thing. We're doing the thing. But really, we're not cut off from that source that flows through us. And that's really what's doing it all. I talked about this, I think it was a couple podcasts ago, and I went deep into it because it's really, really important to remember. I have to remind myself of this almost on a daily basis, because back to the goldfish thing, we easily forget, don't we? That's why I like to write these tools down and carry them with you and put some of those ideas on your paper. Maybe you want to put on there, hey, you're not doing it. When you're focusing on joy and bliss and courage and tenacity and prosperity and simplicity, you're not causing those things to come into being. You're just setting the positive intention and deciding what you want, and then the universal force that flows through us causes it. That's a great reminder to put on there that takes all the pressure off you, because you may think, well, that sounds like a pretty daunting task. I don't know if I'm up for it. Well, no, you know what? You don't have to be up for it. None of us have to be up for it in order for it to occur. So again, in your journal, in your personal development binder, whatever rituals you have, like taking a vitamin, focus on the experiences that you want to have. Now, you can also break it down into 3 categories. You can focus on who you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have. And this that I've been talking about here really falls into like the 3rd category, right? Whereas what you want to have, the things and experiences you want to have, those are the ideas we've been talking about. But like I talk about in my book, Just Be It. That's the tool where you focus on what you want to be. And again, you put yourself in alignment with the events that are the effect of that, right? When you focus on being the cause, you're going to have the effect. And you put yourself in alignment with that, then things are going to start moving in that direction. So you could make 3 lists. And this is one of the things that I do in my own personal development routine. Being, doing, and having. What you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have. And ultimately, they're all going to overlap, right? They're all going to be, you may have words on the same list that are going to overlap. Sometimes that happens. And that just, it goes to show you that everything's interconnected here, isn't it? Right? And so use the list 3 times a day, and I think you're going to have really awesome results. Now, a couple things I want to say. That the main thing is this. And I recently saw this saying, and I'm using this saying that I saw in a shirt. So Khabib, this MMA fighter, recently fought Conor McGregor this last weekend. I sometimes watch MMA. I have friends who are big into that, and I do enjoy watching that on occasion. But he was wearing this shirt, and this is, of course, like a high-level martial artist, MMA practitioner, huge respect for those guys. And on the shirt, it said, "Shut up and train." And I was like, you know what? That is an awesome statement for the human experience in general, and of course, exercise and whatever else. Shut up and train. I've seen it said in other ways along the lines of just do the work, do the practice. That's what we're always doing, is doing the practice. This tool that you're using to focus your mind is no different than going to the gym or doing something else that you only will receive results after continuous, ongoing practice in that or training in that. And so I wanted to share that with you because, again, knowing what to do and having the tool doesn't do us much good if we don't actually train with the tool and practice with that tool. So maybe that'll have a profound effect on you as it did on me when I saw his shirt, "Shut up and train," right? You're, again, training your consciousness, you're training your mind, training your vibrations ultimately, and training your state of being into those experiences. And regardless of what's happening to yourself, you're totally tuning out whatever situation you've got yourself in and going back to do the work of training yourself into those experiences. And so I think that's one of the main things that I wanted to share with you is it comes back to doing the practice. And the thing about it is no one can do the practice for us. We cannot get around to doing the work. You know, if you're going to spend your time doing some type of work, do that internal work as opposed to slogging it out in the world without lining up with the experience you want to have first, without tuning into that experience. of health, wealth, and success, instead just getting out there. That's not a very intelligent way. Well, it's putting it mildly. That is a horrible way to go through life, by not getting the state of being of the thing you want to have and getting that, tuning into your vibration, making your body be that, instead just going out and like trying to make it happen from that state of mind of like lack, scarcity, unsuccessful. It's just never going to happen. So taking that moment to compose yourself, right, and get that tuning in to that experience is so, so vital. So, a little reminder for all of us is shut up and train. Shut up and train. That's all it comes down to. Other people have talked about this. Years ago, about a year ago, I ran across this guy named Sam Ovens, and he's like a sales trainer slash coaching advisor. He does a number of things, but he had a little article and he said, hey, life is a game of tangents. If you try to go for the thing you want, it's going to maybe elude you, right? If you go right for it. But if you become the cause of the thing that you want, or go as like a tangential route, you're going to have a lot more success. And I've seen this in my own life in many different areas. Maybe you have too. And I look at it as being the cause of the experiences you want to have. And you're still in alignment, you're still supporting it, but we live in a universe of cause and effect. And when you become the cause, you'll have that effect. And of course, that's one of the things that I'm big on talking about and writing about, is being the cause. And so that's the other thing I wanted to share with you to think about in this notion, that you're causing yourself to be in alignment with that. And from a business sense, or just a life sense in general, how can you come at it from a little bit of an angle to get what you want, instead of going right toward it and maybe pushing it away, right? This is kind of in alignment with what Neville Goddard talks about when he said that, you're never going to get something that you want from a state of lack, or from a state of not having that experience. And so whatever you want, create the experience of having it already inside of yourself using your imagination, and then you will line up with it. You'll become in harmony with it, and you attract it. That's one of the universal principles of the human experience, is that, again, we're not going after something as much as we are attracting those things. Remember, you're an extension of source energy, you're an extension of the one universal consciousness. Do you really think that one universal consciousness is going to have to go out and slug it out in the real world for what it wants, for what you want, right? You're using that power. Do you really think that's the way it goes? Again, that's the mentality that we have been conditioned with for eons, to live in that state. But if we really want to have and use that power within us, we've got to drop that thinking and become attractors instead of like makers of it happening. Still creators, you're still creating, but you're creating with your mind and your thoughts and your feelings, as opposed to out there trying to make it happen. This is a lot of what the crux of Hawkins' book, I think it's David Hawkins, Power versus Force, right? Are you forcing stuff, or are you allowing the power that flows through you to pre-pave the road for you? You still got to walk the road, right? Just like we talked about, you still got to do the work, but it's an internal work. It's not necessarily an outside job. It's an inside job. So that's another thing I wanted to share with you. I think it can be really helpful to think of it in that way. I know that helps me quite a bit. So we'll wrap up the podcast at that point. I really appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with me during this episode. As always, if you got some value out of this, it would be super awesome if you jumped onto iTunes and left a review. If you Google Enhancing the Human Experience, you can pull up the iTunes page, and or if you have it on your laptop or your phone. It's now called Apple Podcasts. I shouldn't be calling it iTunes. It's called Apple Podcasts. You can leave a review there. That would be super awesome. Or when this episode comes up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/gmarkphillips, you can go there, give a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you've benefited from this, and share your experience. I'd really love to hear your feedback. And while you're there, why not subscribe? I've got a lot of new series and things that I'm going to be implementing over the next number of weeks and months, specifically for YouTube, that I'm really excited to start doing that, including more vlogging. I've already started doing a little more vlogging. Haven't been as consistent as I want to, as I kind of put those new things into the machine here and make it a little more smooth. But I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be sharing a lot of the books that I get this information from. I'm going to be sharing some of the behind the scenes ideas and concepts and where I got those from, so that you can go and search those out as well. One of my favorite things to do is just like scour all of these books, and as you go toward and try to go toward the truth, right, and want to discover the truth will want to discover you, right? And so I've felt very fortunate to have been led to a number of great authors and books and information that I'll be sharing, more about that on YouTube. Again, kind of the behind the scenes things that I talk about on the podcast. And I still talk about those on the podcast, but I think vlogging is a lot better way to, actually show you that information. I'm really excited about that. Like I said, I'm getting all that geared up really soon. And the other thing that I'm working on is products and apparel. I've launched this before. I'm doing a relaunch of a new online store, a new brand, if you will, and I'm really excited to share that with you too. So a lot of exciting things are happening this, towards the end of this year. I'm really excited to launch those out. But again, I'll be sharing with you all on social media and or my YouTube channel, all those events. So I hope you're having an awesome day. I hope you have an awesome week ahead, and I hope that you get a lot of value out of this simple focusing tool, just writing down the things and experiences that you want to have, and then allowing, getting out of the way, like we all have to practice doing, allowing yourself to be inspired of ways to do those or have those things. So that's the tool I want to share with you today. Hey, thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it, as always. And until next time, all the best, health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.